the May meeting of the Buncombe County Council. Welcome here. It's good to see a full house. Unfortunately, as W.C. Fields would say, it ain't fit for man or beast out there tonight. So thank you for bearing with the weather. Let's stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you remain standing, please, and whatever you want to pray for, please do so. Very good. Let's have a seat. I want to let everyone know that tonight, and they're probably playing in the rain as we speak, the Owen girls soccer team is down in Charlotte. And I think this is the third round. Is that right? I think so. I think this is the third round, so that's quite something that they've made it this far. I'm going to go ahead and read the ethics statements. In accordance with the Code of Ethics adopted by the council, all council members have a duty to conduct the affairs of the governing board in an open and public manner, free of conflicts of interest. Is there any item on the agenda, that outcome of which we will have a direct, substantial, or readily identifiable financial impact for any council member, his or her family, or close business associates?
No.
Does any council member have a financial interest in any public contract coming before this council today? No. There being none, all council members have a duty and obligation to vote. All right, Josh.
All right, item 2 will be proclamations, awards, recognitions, and we're going to have some employee recognitions this evening. If the fire chief, John Coffey, would come in and bring his staff.
All right. So today, we gather not just to recognize bravery, but to honor a profound act of selflessness and courage. 3 of our bravest responded to a house fire last month. Inside, they found a non-ambulatory individual unable to escape. These 3 fine gentlemen here on engine 4 had come up. The individual was on the first floor. Family was saying that that she was still inside while the house was on fire, and they were able to effectively rescue her and get her out of the house. So it is with deep gratitude and admiration that we present the Life-Saving Award to these 3 outstanding individuals. Your actions reflect the highest standards of service, humanity, and remind us all of the true meaning of heroism. Please join me in recognizing and thanking them for their incredible bravery. Their Battalion Chief George Bond is going to help me quickly pass out the award and present to each of them. Tonight we have Lieutenant Chance Hensley. Firefighter Charles Woody, and Firefighter Andrew Operato.
Very good. Thank you. We
have another recognition that we didn't have on the agenda. Come on up here. So, we get staff around here, department heads. In October is normally Bosses Day. And in August, we had intended on kind of recognizing the town manager because of his support for his staff, expecting professionalism from us. It's actually, his birthday is in May, so we thought there would be no better time since Helene happened in September. But what an amazing man to lead through COVID. He's led through the third highest inflation in our nation's history over a period of time. And then he was amazing to us as department heads in Helene. And so we wanted to recognize him for his birthday since it's not Boss's Day. And thank Josh Harold. And I wanted to make sure if anybody else had something that they could say whatever they wanted.
I'd just like to capitalize, Josh. Not only that, we went through the second biggest snow in the history of this town. I went through it with you, so I remember the meetings. I'll be quick, I know it's a long meeting, but I'm an 18-year employee. I was born in Mission Hospital, and I'm a lifelong in this valley. I know the goods, the bads, the uglies, and all. You're a good ethical person, you're a fair person, you're a friend to us all, you're a good leader, and I just want to say, I'll tell you like my granddaddy told me, the truth is staying when the world's on fire. So just keep looking straight ahead, and thank you for your leadership.
Yeah, yeah.
Got you a fishing gift card there. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we've got citizen comments. We have 7 here. I'm going to start off by reading 2 that were sent to me. First one from Joe Tyson. Sorry to miss the meeting tonight. I have some thoughts on the golf course. I've lived in Black Mountain for 75 years and have played golf on the Black Mountain Golf Course for over 60. The golf course is important historically and economically to our valley. I think most golfers would agree that the golf course has never really lived up to its potential. For much of its history, the golf course has suffered from underfunding, understaffing, undercommitment, and lack of discipline. I am in favor of keeping the golf course as a golf course, but I think the town should consider proposals for the golf course, for leasing or even selling the golf course to a professional golf management company like McConnell Golf, who could run the golf course profitably and help it reach potential. Unfortunately, most municipalities do a poor job of running golf course facilities. Joe Tyson. This one here is from John Decker. Dear Mr. Sobel, dear Mayor Sobel, my name is John Decker. I've been a PGA member since 1997 and currently the Director of Instruction at Medellin Golf in Westerville, Ohio. Black Mountain is my home and will always be my hometown. I was practically raised at the Black Mountain Golf Course. I love Black Mountain so much that I featured it in 2 of the Christian books I wrote. Golf books, not to toot my own horn, but to let you know that the book is full of wonderful stories about growing up in Black Mountain, playing golf at the Black Mountain Golf Course, as well as stories of my time at Charles D. Owen. In my second book, I have an amusing picture of Reverend Billy Graham and Masters runner-up Billy Joe Patton, picture provided by Richard Hudson at the opening of the back 9 in 1962. Reverend Graham knew the importance of adding an additional 9 holes to the golf course. I've been praying for Black Mountain and for the residents since Hurricane Helene devastated the valley. The town of Black Mountain needs a golf course. My family no longer lives in Black Mountain, but each year I make it a point of visiting and seeing old friends and playing around. I pray the town rallies together and makes the financial investment necessary to restore this landmark. In my first book, I had a chapter titled The World's Longest Hole. The chapter talked about the hole number 17, the world's longest hole, 747 yards. In 1977 when I moved to Black Mountain. The restoration of Black Mountain Golf Course may now seem like the world's longest hole. but the rewards at the golf course will bring future generations that can never be measured in dollars and cents. I'm living proof of that. Thank you for your time. Okay, first up, Blake Martin. Oh, okay.
Mr. Mayor and members of Town Council, my name's Blake Martin. I'm a resident of Cheshire, though I
And give it your address there, Cheshire.
It's 3 Shakespeare Circle in Black Mountain.
Okay.
I grew up in Asheville.
Keep in mind, you got 3 minutes.
Yes.
Just so you, okay.
I grew up in Asheville. That's why I talk the way I do, just like the rest of you. I have retired in Black Mountain. And like many of you on council and here tonight, we are homeowners. We've got land and we value that land. And one thing I learned during my career as a district attorney and as a retired judge, they don't make any more land. Land is a finite resource. Black Mountain Golf Course, the jewel in the town of Black Mountain, is something that is unlike any other golf course that I have ever been at. And I did my work as a district attorney and as a judge down in Horry County for 35 years. They had over 100 golf courses. In 2006, I saw them shutter a bunch of golf courses because they decided we can build houses and we can make more money if we turn that land into homes. The economy tanked, and now they've got a bunch of golf courses sitting out there with weeds taller than I am, and nothing's going on with them. It is a jewel, Black Mountain Golf Course. I've played all around western North Carolina and all in South Carolina, and there's none like it. I go running, Mayor Sobel, as part of my health regime. And when I run down Blue Ridge Road, I run past a patch of land that's right across from a garage that I think you may have some connection to. It has a special place in your heart, and I know in the hearts of people who come by and get free vegetables at your invitation. You can't do anything with that land and get rid of it and still have the same feeling for it that you have now and how it helps people. And I know the people that speak after me tonight are going to tell you how much Black Mountain Golf Course means to them. It may lose money, but there's a lot of businesses that do real well with what they call a loss leader, because it brings people into the area, and though the course itself may not make money for the town, the course brings people who give businesses in the town their money. So I encourage you, as a member of the base of taxpayers in Black Mountain and as somebody who is glad to be back home where they know how to talk, I encourage you to keep the golf course open and under town management.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next up, Carl Bartlett.
A little older than Blake, I'm gonna sit down. I'm here to discuss the broad value that a golf course brings to a community, especially like Black Mountain. You have public access and affordability recreation. You have the economic impact that he's talked about. I volunteer at the Visitor Center. The number one request when someone comes in is about our shops and our stores and restaurants. Number 2 is golf and hiking. Number 3 is real estate. And our stores, restaurants, businesses all need the support we can give them, as they've had the worst year they've ever had due to the flood. The course also provides health and wellness, community engagement, including charity fundraisers. We have youth programs. So proud of our men's golf and women's golf associations. Any child that wants to play golf in Black Mountain, Swannanoa Valley, and cannot afford clubs, they're given to them by these various associations. Environmental benefits, because it's a green space. Social equity, all social economic backgrounds have an opportunity to participate, unlike private clubs, leased clubs that are extremely expensive. The infrastructure investment that we already have in the golf course, historical and cultural values. We have an identity with this golf course, public opinion and backlash. One other tidbit, Owen High School, girls and boys have won more golf scholarships than any other school in this county. And that's due to the golf course that we have. Right now, we have Carson Murphy, who's playing at Pinehurst for a state championship this week, and that's the reason he's not here, nor his coach, John Knight. I imply upon you to please come out with a statement of good faith for the golf course, because so many rumors are floating around, and we know that about 99.9% are false. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Next up, Maggie Tuttle.
Hi, thank you, Carl. This feels like old times. I'm here tonight for many reasons. And I'm here to represent the Black Mountain Women's Golf Association, which I've been a part of for 40 plus years. And listening to all the things I've heard so far, there's a part of me that says, okay, I think we're all in agreement that we want this golf course going. And now it's up to you, all of you, to come up with that solution. And I think you can work on it together. I'm a problem solver. So I would love to see you put it all together and come up with a solution. I was really concerned back in the last few months. I didn't see much action going on at the golf course. The fairways growing up, especially on number 1, and I know how expensive a golf course is to maintain and take care of. Please don't let it get too far gone. And I would love to see the back 9. I understand I came today and talked with the manager and the assistant manager and another person who gave me some good information. I think there are some things in the work, and I would like to give it to you to make sure that this happens. This would be such a tragedy to let this not happen. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Maggie. Next up, Alan Tripp.
I like Maggie Tuttle. She needs no introduction or address. Very, very nicely done. I'm Alan Tripp. I reside at 109 3rd Street in Black Mountain. And thank you for the opportunity to address this group. I address you today as the president of the Friends of Black Mountain Golf. It's a 501 organization operating under the Parks and Greenway organization. We tried to model ourselves after the Friends of the Muni in Asheville to work with the city and the management of the golf course to allow a 501c type of organization that could also bring in funds to the golf course to help it grow and maintain. Unfortunately, just as we were getting going, the Helene came along, so it's been a quiet period. We, like hundreds of others of supporters to the Black Mountain Golf Course, have been waiting for the appropriate time to engage with the city and work actively with the city to bring the golf course back. We fully understand that the town has been doing everything they can, working with FEMA and the state and so forth. The communication, I have to say, from Josh and the Black Mountain Golf Course management has been excellent, and the story continues to change and change as this goes along. Our concern and our ask this evening of the council is, because of these changes and because of the delays in funding, we're concerned that the course may continue to deteriorate if we don't get some gap funding or some intermediate funding to hold us over before the FEMA funds come in. So having that in place will help with the current plan to open the back 9, which I think is a great idea. The cash flow from that hopefully would pay for the gap loans that we may put in place. And so our hope there that should come together quickly. Talking to Brent just today, and I know Josh is working to try and get this open in the June timeframe. The addition of the gap funding would also help with the permitting, the design, and all the things that we need in order to build the new buildings, acquire the equipment, and put the plans in place to put the front 9 and the bridges back in place. So again, in closing, just really appreciate this golf course. If you look at the situation Buncombe County finds itself in right now with the demise of the golf course out at the airport and the Muni, Black Mountain may find itself with the only operational 18-hole public golf course in the county. And I think that should provide cash flow to pay off any loans that we may take. And I totally agree with Mr. Tyson and others that frankly, that just brings more business and more revenue to the owners of businesses in the city.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you for your time.
So I don't know whether you flipped a coin, Ruth, you and Larry, as to who's going to speak, because it says Ruth or Larry or both. Okay.
This is not about golf, but it is a save the date, May 31st from 1 to 5.
Name and address. Name and address. Hi, I'm Larry Perlman at 203 North Park Lane is my permanent address. Wednesdays from 5 to 6, I live at State Street and Montreat Road with my other left friends.
Ruth Pitter, 208 Central Avenue, and I'm excited about this, so I forgot to introduce myself. This is new as of this morning. Black Mountain is joining the world on May the 31st to participate from 1 to 5 on the town green in a Join Our Hearts as One for a Day of Love. Now, this came from Asheville, and I'll read you one little bit. Love is a force far greater than ourselves. There is mystery and magic in this life. Love, wonder, beauty exists before us right this minute. What's been missing is our awareness. So many participants will join Hearts as One by gathering together to create a rolling wave of loving energy passing from one time zone to the next around the globe. There will be individual activities locating community celebrations and worldwide connections through online events and social media. Go to social media, will have things up as they develop. Right now, we just have a time, May 31st, Saturday, 1 to 5, and it will be for the entire town, hoping that we will remember the kinds of love that was shown back in September when we were all one. So, Barry, anything to add?
Yeah, pardon my hat, but half the people wouldn't recognize me without it. And I just have to say, I also love golf and, would say, yeah, save the golf course. That's not why we came, but it's part of love. I just came to hold the sign. She's the one to give the information. Thank you all.
Watch your social media.
Next up is Rick Harwood.
I'm Rick Harwood. I live at 110 Beach Tree Drive, Black Mountain. I grew up right across the street at 306 Pagettown Road. I wore maroon tonight for one main reason. I went to Owen High School. I graduated from Owen. Archie Patiller is a witness of that. He graduated in the same class. When I was a kid, I used to walk from Paget Town Road to the Black Mountain Golf Course to make $3 to caddy somebody's clubs. Y'all don't understand caddies, I'm sure, but I do. And that was a hard $3. And that was for 18 holes of golf, but that helped me get through the week. I support that golf course with everything I've got. I've got a grandson getting ready to graduate from Moyne High School, going on to East Tennessee State. I've got a granddaughter, his sister, that is taking up golf. She goes to ACA. They don't have a golf course to practice on down there, and that's why we call Black Mountain home. And they will probably be using that course too as those kids get a little older. It just bothers me when I drive by there and see what's been happening there, and not a lot been happening. But I want to give one upbeat is since I have retired from the funeral home here in town, I have rode around a lot. And I want to give thanks and praise to the kids' baseball and softball fields over here off Blue Ridge Road. I've never seen in this town backstops as high as those are. Thank God, that's what they need to be. So everyone who's putting that project together is doing it the way it should be done. Backstops used to be short. Foul ball could get you in the head in a second. But I hope that we will continue to talk about the golf course. Had the longest hole in the world, I remember that, number 17, as that was spoken. Billy Graham played there. And I was over there one day, I think it was last year, and I ran into Bill White, that's retired now, and I said maybe one day we'll get to hook up together when I retire, and we'll get to play golf. And he was really excited about the golf course. That was Bill White, one of our insurance people here in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Next up is Rick Early.
Folks, I'm Rick Early, 107 Oakland Drive in Black Mountain. Carson Murphy shot 72 today at the 2A state championship. He is in third place, and they play again tomorrow. That might be the most important thing I say tonight. You folks are going to have a proposal. I'm sure you've probably already got it. You're talking about it Thursday morning at 8:30 for the Black Mountain Golf Course. And it's a smart proposal. I've read at least one version of it. It's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it really means something, and it's time related. And I can't implore each of you enough to give it serious consideration to let's get these 18 holes open before the end of July. What better statement for Western North Carolina tourists, upstate South Carolina tourists, to know that Black Mountain is really open for business when the Black Mountain Golf Course is open for business. Last couple of years, they were in the black, $150,000, $200,000, something like that. So it's not a drain. The town needs the revenue, the merchants need the traffic. I've got a friend of mine who's a member at Asheville Country Club. They're closed on Mondays. Guess what he does almost every Monday? He comes to Black Mountain and plays golf with a group of folks out here. That's what this course means to folks. I implore you, please give that proposal serious consideration. Let's get these 18 holes, all 18 holes, open by the end of July. Thank you.
Next up is Richard Hudson.
Honorable Mayor Sobel and Town Council, I come to you tonight to express my grave concern about the Black Mountain Golf Club. I've been involved with Black Mountain Golf since 1965. First as a caddy, we only got $1, $2, Rick, back when I was there. And a beginning golfer, Owen High Golf Team, played in dog fights and tournaments at the golf course. I was one of the organizers of the Black Mountain Men's Golf Association, a group the town chartered in the 90s. Also was elected board member from 1985 to 89. In 85, we were in a crisis mode over there and ended up putting in a brand new irrigation system, a new pro shop, cart storage, new carts, and also some personnel shakeup. We also began accounting for the course in an enterprise fund so we'd know the actual bottom line like any business. Your board, for some reason, has changed this recently where there is no autonomous accounting to determine a profit or loss. Earlier, I referred to the golf course as a Black Mountain Golf Club. A club, you might say? Yes, the Black Mountain Golf Club was a thriving entity. The club had 100 or so in-town members and 250 out-of-towners with a waiting list. Both ladies and men had involved associations. We all worked for the betterment of the club, including volunteer work days, tee box planning by the ladies. The men raised $25,000 to build the men's association room, which is now the dining room for the Green Tea Grill. Then one day, a former board changed the name from club to course. Though the change was only one word, this change started the downhill slide of the entity. Why? People had no glue or club to keep them together working for the common good. Now, pre-Helene, we only had 30 to 40 members. The golf course is at a crossroads. The course had some damage, yes, but minor in comparison to the Muni, Mount Mitchell, and Broadmoor. Someone made a concerted decision to abandon the course because of the storm. Because of this, my opinion is the board was derelict in its fiduciary duty to its citizens for allowing this to happen. With all this being said, we, and I mean you, our leaders, directing our management, need to come forth with a plan not only to save this golf course, but to put it in a position to become a premier daily fee golf destination. You need to roll up your sleeves and work outside the comfort of a monthly meeting. You need to seek guidance of experts in the field, the CGA, USGA, and other successful muni operators. Soul searching will be necessary to determine, 1, are we capable of running and managing ourselves? 2, should we seek a qualified, well-vetted management, and should we sell to a free market golf course company? There's no doubt we have the basic infrastructure along with unmatched vistas in every turn. We have a market that is in short supply of places to play. The main question is, do we have the intestinal fortitude to do what we need to do?
Charlie Lunsford is next.
I'll probably stand like Richard. Charlie Lunsford, 805 Laurel Avenue in Black Mountain, but I'm a lifetime resident in Black Mountain. Love the place. Maggie taught me how to play golf. First round I ever played was with Maggie. You know, I've seen all these older people as I've grown up and lived here and love the golf course. My son's on the golf team. There is two sides to every story. But let's be clear here. The golf course is almost 100 years old. History. If there was a town building that got hit by lightning that was 100 years old that had much tradition, we would be on it to fix it. Can we agree on that? You know, the people move here to Black Mountain for two reasons. The scenery, the location, yes, but the people is why you move here. While probably a lot of you that aren't, you're local now, but you moved here. And you moved here for the people. And the golf course has some of the best people that I've ever met. So it's just, we miss the golf course. Fundraisers in this town rely on the golf course. There's over $100,000 missing through the VFW tournament. Owen Booster tournament. Everybody can't make money doing bake sales. It's just not there. it happens at the golf course. We raise $10,000 to $15,000 for charities every tournament, and people come from all over the country, and they love it. And let's see what else I got here. It's just, our kids are having to go to Morganton to practice golf, and one other thing, well, two other things real quick. The bridges that are out, they can be fixed, and it's not a super expensive fix because me and my dad and my brother put them in 30 years ago. We did the bridges. They're not that bad. We can fix them again. The cart shed down there can be used again. It's not, we don't need to go way extreme on this, folks. We can fix everything and get it back into shape. The Charleston Municipal Course in Charleston, which I think we should do here, is just an idea. They charge extra for tourists. People that come into town, they don't care to pay $75, $80. They think that's a deal, and we're letting them play for $40. Keep the local rate, let's increase the rate for out-of-towners, and we can make some money that way too.
Thank you, John. And last to speak is Chuck Richardson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Chuck Richardson. I'm a newbie here at Black Mountain.
Well,
This is my 4th year here. And,
your address?
Am I supposed to be speaking to you?
Your address.
Yes. My address, 151 Last Resort Terrace.
Okay.
Black Mountain. We good?
Go ahead.
All right. So, you know, my wife and I were living in Florida, retired.
Yeah.
You're speaking to the council, sir.
Well, that's not my normal way of doing things. Okay, excuse me, I didn't know to call. My wife and I decided to get a summer home 4 years ago. And we looked all over western North Carolina. We rented for 2 years in various communities. And we met someone in Florida who said, you know, have you been to Black Mountain yet? And we said, well, no. They said, well, try that. And so, you know, lo and behold, we rented a place here in Black Mountain for a month. At the end of that month, my wife and I looked at each other and said, let's look for something here. And we're proud owners now of a home in Black Mountain. But what I want to emphasize tonight is not only the relief I feel that we have this home here since Ian destroyed our home in Florida. However, what really impressed us most of all was the spirit of community here. I mean, well, my wife's a community participant, and she often tags me along. And in less than 6 months, we were on the beautification committee. I don't know whether any of you ever stop and look at these planters. I mean, this is all volunteer. And Cindy and I are now trusted with the East Entrance Garden to Black Mountain. And, you know, I said, I'm a golfer. And I said, I cannot believe there's a Donald Ross designed golf course here in my new hometown. And I have made so many connections and friends by playing golf with a group of fellows every Tuesday and Thursday, that it's a marvelous network of very, very friendly and kind people. As a matter of fact, my biggest impression here, as a previous speaker said, is the people. And we found that through volunteering, we discovered a plethora of personalities, skills, abilities, references, you name it, just by volunteering in the community. So lo and behold, I've golfed with a group of fellows who the organization's been mentioned, Friends of the Golf Course. And, you know, conversations go on, and we decided, you know what? There's some things that need done to the golf course. And there are things that we can do, because we were free labor, okay? I've never seen anything like it. We were out there was, 25 people, Helen? Yeah, and we worked like dogs all day. I mean, chainsaws, you name it. We loaded like 4 dumpsters with trimmings from the golf course, because they couldn't afford it.
I appreciate it.
So my time? Okay, but I just
Very
want to
good.
say, that's what makes the community, is volunteerism. Don't lose this golf course, it's a jewel.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, that ends the citizen comment. I appreciate everyone that spoke up and the support. Josh?
All right, and then we'll go into item number 4, which will be communications from commissions and agencies, Buncombe County Helene recovery updates. I'm looking for Rachel or Jeremiah. There he is.
Good evening. Waiting for the slide deck to kick off here. Do I just need to, perfect, thank you. Wasn't sure if I needed to just let you know or if I get a little clicker all for myself. Thanks very much. All right, well, good evening, Mayor Sobel, council members, birthday boy. It is great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. My name is Jeremiah Leroy, and I've learned a lot of new terms in the last 7 months, and one of which is in Blue Skies. My role is the Sustainability Director for Buncombe County. However, over the last 7 months, I've been given a lot of new roles. Like many of us, we have taken on a lot of new responsibilities that we did not plan for, and I am currently the Deputy Recovery Officer for Buncombe County. So that's the role that I'm currently here serving in today. And I wanted to just echo a couple of sentiments that I've heard actually throughout, and non-golf related sentiments throughout the meeting today. And that's really just kind of reflecting back on all we've been through in the last 7 months. And I want to take the opportunity from the perspective of Buncombe County to say thank you. To say thank you for all of the support. Certainly to echo what I think you heard from staff earlier about the management in Black Mountain and the support that they've given us and the leadership that they've shown and the collaborative spirit that we've seen over these last 7 months. We've all been through a lot. And this community really came to, from anything from the emergent response to sheltering to food access. What you saw here was a pretty amazing group of people doing amazing things for their community. And so it's been a long 7 months. And as we closed our last community care station at Owen, just at the end of the month in April, it really sort of was sort of symbolic of ending that sort of emergency response functions that the county's been in, and really a transition into recovery support functions. And so that's our role at the county in the office that I'm in right now. And so I want to kind of go through this with you a little bit and talk about long-term recovery planning and what that is and what it means for us. So what is a long-term recovery plan? Why do we do it? It's really a document that it names what's important to us, right? It's an opportunity to identify project-specific goals that reflect what you all and what your community thinks is important from now, well, in the short and medium and very long term, right? And it's project-specific in that, as an example, in something like a strategic plan, you'll see a goal that says, we want to build more affordable housing, right? And we'll set a goal as a community for 500 new units by 2030. Well, a recovery plan would say, we're going to build an affordable housing complex of 260 units on Cox Avenue and South Slope in downtown Asheville, right? It's very project-specific. And what this does for us is it really helps us to not only identify what our needs are, but it helps us secure potential funding, right? So as these potential funding sources open up, many of which I hadn't even heard of 7 months ago, having this plan in place and knowing that the projects in this plan have been suggested by subject matter experts, vetted by the local community and by the elected officials, and make it into this plan. It gives us the ability to point to these projects and say to potential funders, this is what's important for our community, and we know because we asked, and because we've identified these priorities, both at a community level and at sort of a government and elected official level. So that's kind of what a recovery plan is. It's full of lots of stuff too. It's going to have lots of introductory information about each town and you know, everything that we've been through. But at its heart, it's a project-specific plan for the future. So our local approach to developing this plan is we start with aligning ourselves with these sort of existing frameworks, right? There are already sort of playbooks, if you will, for creating these types of documents. If you look at Lahaina, where the wildfires were in Maui, if you look at Lyons, Colorado, which had very similar destructive floods to us, there are sort of pre-existing like game plans for how to put these types of documents together. And they're informed by these communities that have already gone through these types of disasters and have lessons for us to learn. In addition, we are, and I'm joined by some of my colleagues from FEMA tonight, we are supported by the FEMA Community Assistance Group to help actually write the plan. As you know, staff at all levels is pretty inundated right now, so that support is very critical to us to actually have somebody help implement the writing of the plan itself. We're going to go through the process of vetting these potential projects and do all of that, but getting it on paper is a lot of work, and we're fortunate to have these folks. We'd like this plan to be a unified, reflective voice of Buncombe County as a whole, but I think, and this is a very important part of it, is that each of our cities and towns sort of retains that independent authority over their portion of the plan, right? Your projects, your vetting process, your development of like how these ideas came to be and what you think is most important for your town, right? And that's what that plan needs to reflect. That said, that doesn't mean there won't be overlap between a county project and a Black Mountain project or a City of Asheville project, but you'll have your own independent authority over deciding what goes into this plan for Black Mountain and how you want to move forward with that. So what you'll expect to see from us, and you may have seen this already, in fact, I noticed it on your website when I was looking at the agenda today, that you've already got our Envision Buncombe survey posted, right? So this is something that we've put out there as a way to sort of get that reflective feedback from the community. What are your priorities? What are the things that you want to see your town, your community do to help us recover? We do have that information, and we did ask for town-specific information, so we will be able to share with you the results of that survey specifically for Black Mountain. So as soon as the survey closes, which I believe that's at the end of the month. I think that's what we have it is through the end of this month. We will be sharing those with you as well. And we've already obviously reached out to staff and talked about the process for developing and vetting. Like, this is how we're working on developing projects. So we'll be developing projects and evaluating those projects, right? There's got to be a vetting process. No bad ideas to start with, but we need to sort of whittle those down as we develop what actually will end up in the plan. And then by fall, we'll have draft plans to review for elected officials and then potentially get that feedback from the community as well. The point is to get input at first and then to get feedback. Did we hear you right? We want input for ideas, but then we want feedback to say, do these projects match what we heard from you? And so we hope to have that all done for you by September. The goal is to have it done, the draft complete by the 1-year anniversary of the storm. And then again, take that back out for additional feedback, and then fingers crossed, everything goes well. We hope to have a plan adopted by late October, early November, sort of an official document that we can all sort of put our stamp on and stand behind. So this is just some, what's the word I'm looking for? Graphics and sort of what we're putting out there for people to see in Buncombe. Obviously, you can go to the website, engage.buncombecounty.org/envisionbuncombe, or scan the QR code. That's what all the young kids are doing nowadays, these QR codes. And it is available in multiple languages. This really is just sort of a pitch, like just let folks know when we have the opportunity to make public presentations. We want to let folks know that resources are still available for folks. That the 94 Cox Avenue in downtown Asheville Helene Resource Center is open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Please let folks know. Please send them there. There's FEMA individual assistance, disaster case management, small business loan program, hazard mitigation program, as well as other, survivor resources all in one place. And that's the point, is to sort of have that one-stop shop to sort of case manage what it is that our residents need. So again, just pitching folks to take the survey, and I'm very happy to answer any questions that you might have tonight about the long-term recovery planning process. Or if you don't have any, that's great, I can go home.
Make it real, like what kind of input do you want from people? How will this impact our lives here in Black Mountain by responding?
It's a great point. So the survey, we tried to make it as easy as possible, honestly. People are a bit surveyed out, and I understand that. But the fact is that these are some of the best ways we have to reach people and to get feedback. So the survey is only 4 questions. And it's essentially asking you to prioritize what you think is the most important part of recovery. And that can be anything from, I'm the sustainability director, so I'm just going to pitch energy resilience, right? That's something that's very close to my heart. The idea of building resilience hubs in communities is something that I'm very keen on. It could be housing, right? Providing additional affordable housing for folks. It could be infrastructure, rebuilding roads and bridges, right? Any of these things, we want you to prioritize those things so that we can then develop projects that can be implemented in your community to help address those things that you are telling us are your primary priorities. Does that make sense? Does that help answer the question?
Is there a blank space you can write down?
There's always room for, yes, yeah. Leave a comment.
Get some golf course responses.
I was thinking we might get some of those after tonight.
Okay.
Absolutely. Well, passive recreation, various types of recreation, that's also on the list, and that would probably be something that would fit into that category. But there is opportunity for a little bit of free form, right? I will tell you, it's a lot more for us to go through when we start going through the comments. But that's the intent, is to, again, take all this information, share it with each of the cities and towns so that they can look through it. And again, this is the point. What does your community want? How do they feel? And what are their priorities? And so we'll get you that information and help build a project list out from there. And obviously, we're resources for you, right? We're new to this too, and so we're all kind of learning together. But that's why our folks from FEMA are here to help, and that's why the county's dedicated staff to this specific project.
What it tells me is there's a long-term, this is going to take a while. We all have to just keep remembering that this is not going to, and none of it's going to be all fixed.
I think that's a really good point. I think one of the things that we've discussed in terms of putting this plan together is we don't want to limit what the ideas are at this point, but once we have those ideas and they've been sort of vetted by the folks that, is it realistic? What is the timeline? We'd like to put them into the plan and label them as such. Sort of high, medium, low in terms of complexity, short, medium, long in terms of timeline, so that it's sort of identified in the plan that, yes, this is an ambitious sort of goal to do this thing, whatever this project is, but it's specifically in the plan too that it is a long-term project. It's something that is going to take many years, whereas there will also be some that are much quicker wins that we can get to faster, for sure. I have a feeling I know how some of the room feels about what some of the shorter term projects we might want to be. But that will be up to your community to sort of label those things out. And then when we build the plan, we want to be very clear with folks in terms of this is a very high cost, long term project, so it needs to be identified as such so that we're setting the appropriate expectations.
Anybody else?
Do you do the composting for the county, or is that the city of Asheville?
There is a composting person at the county. It is not me. Her name is Cassandra, And,
I just noticed that they're
yeah.
celebrating their millionth pound of composted
yes,
food scraps.
yes.
Yeah.
We are very
I
proud.
was going to say kudos, but never mind.
It's not,
He can take it back.
I will take it back with me.
Cassandra, yeah.
I will take it back with me, I promise. So, if there's not any further questions, I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
Like I said, we're a resource for you. Reach
Thanks,
out if
John.
you have any questions. Thank you, Josh. Good to see you.
Thank you, good to see you. All right, and then lastly, in communications from staff, we're going to have the Public Works report from our Public Works Director, Jamie Matthews.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. I guess you're wondering who this is. If you hadn't met him, this is Charlie Gross. He's our water operator. He's been with us for about 8 years now, or close to 10, excuse me. He's done a very, very good job, and I figured if there's any questions tonight or anything, Charlie will be willing to answer those questions. It gets into the deep, deep logistics of the water. I want to give you a pre-Helene and a post-Helene, sort of where we're at within the town, so I apologize if this gets a little lengthy, but it's good information, and it'll just bring us all up to date, everybody up to date on what's going on. So the purpose of today's presentation is explain the impacts of Tropical Storm Helene, summarize emergency response and repairs, discuss long-term recovery and infrastructure resilience. Pre-storm system performance. Functioning within capacity, producing 40% of town's water needs, ongoing maintenance program, aging infrastructure and select locations that's been flagged for replacement prior to the storm, and programmed into capital projects in the water fund. So this is all stuff, that we were doing and completing before Helene hit. No major non-system-wide vulnerabilities, so we were functioning normal capacity at this time. Tropical Storm Helene impact timeline, of course, it was September 27th, 2024. We had flash flooding, landslides, power outages, surges. We had widespread debris, infrastructure submerged or compromised, distribution charged with non-potable water, and more damage was located during the storm. Distribution system functioned on October the 9th with non-potable water. So there's a lot went on in this time period right here that I could sit and talk to y'all for 3 hours, and that's the truth, and probably couldn't cover it all. But during the storm, we were pretty much on shutdown because it was too dangerous for anybody to be out at that time. We did evacuate hotels. We did get equipment out of our building, which I'm going to touch on in detail here in a little bit, where some of the guys couldn't swim and the water rose so fast that they were stranded on top of their trucks, and we had to rescue them off top of the trucks because the trucks actually quit because the water was so deep. All right, immediate impacts to the water system. We had extensive erosion and washouts at key line locations. This was bad throughout the town. We had hundreds and hundreds of feet of water line that was actually washed out of the ground, exposed or busted in two. Make a long story short, our whole system went completely dry. It actually went in sections as it started failing, and as me and Charlie, as we were communicating in person, because we had no communication by phone or radio during that time, then it started getting the pump houses and things of that nature, and pumps are shutting down. So to save probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, Charlie went and cut the pump stations, just shut them down to save the motors, because those motors, as I've said before, are not just ones you go buy off the shelf. They are specifically designed for the purpose of this system, and it could take months to get them. Which, there you go, pump stations and tanks offline, and access to the wells were destroyed. And we'll discuss that in a minute also. But we had major power outages. Our SCADA system, which is automated, it lets us know what's going on, completely wiped out. So really, other than putting visual eyes on it, there was no way to know other than the system was dry, checking it in different places around town. Coping with water outages. Existing relationships with Davis Water proved to be a critical resource to Black Mountain residents. I'd like to say they are an amazing group of people. We have used them prior to having SCADA. When the tanks went dry one time, they come and actually filled our tanks on a schedule, and they have proved to be our allies and stand beside us before they will anybody else until any disaster's over. And they even told us that on the phone when Charlie spoke to them, that they were ours as long as we wanted them. Which, in turn, we had other municipalities calling saying, hey, how'd you get that water? You know, I've called them, they won't service us because they're servicing you. I think they were even doing Mission Hospital, and that was about it, us and Mission Hospital.
They were out of resources.
They were out of resources, but they said they would stay with us as long as they need them, so I just want to give a big kudos to Davis Water. They have really, really serviced us well in the past. Town Council acted quickly to approve funding to secure safe water delivery, and I remember when y'all was asked about that, and y'all approved it to get it in here. So just want to thank you for that. That was a big decision, and that was a very good decision on our part. Without that, we would have no water. Black Mountain had water on site before any jurisdiction in Buncombe County, and that's facts. And that's the reason people couldn't understand how we done it. And I've touched on that before, and it really comes back to having years of experience and making years of relationships throughout the state, you know, and having those good relationships and maintaining them. So Davis Water's the reason for that, and having those good relationships. There's a picture of Davis Water. They're a very professional company. They have many, many rigs like that throughout the state, but during that storm they were spent. They had all their resources was out, so we were very thankful to secure them. The next picture that I'm going to show, it don't have no title with it, but I'm going to come back to it. This picture right here was posted in Richard Hudson's insurance company window during the storm. And if that's true, Mayor, we appreciate it, but I think that's a misunderstanding on our behalf, because staff is the one that got water in here 100%. Major water system repairs completed. Water line replacements, ductile iron line replacements, 6, 8, 10 inch. Cast iron line replacements, PVC line replacements, 2 and 4 inch. Galvanized line replacements with PVC or poly service line replacements, 3/4, valve replacements, service line repairs, repair or backfill exposed service lines, replacement of short segments of service lines, pump stations, SCADA repairs, debris removal from pumps, piping repairs at pump stations, repair of SCADA systems, flood-related repairs, backfilling of exposed lines, stabilization of infrastructure impacted by flooding, temporary emergency repairs, installation repairs of lands, galvanized lines. That's pretty good for a month of work to be back online. Now, some of that stuff went over line, but I'm very proud of my staff, and they get beat up bad on social media, and that's something I'm not proud of. That's the reason I said I know a lot of people in this town. I got a lot of friends in this town that's from here and not from here. I know the goods, the bads, and the uglies. I promise you. 54 years I've been here, and I've never seen staff get treated as bad as they do today. My skin's this thick, I don't care. Say what you want, because anybody that knows me, I have no reason to lie. The truth is the truth. And these guys get beat up, and it's tough for employee retention, and it's just not good for the town in general. And the people of this town, the ones that could really make a difference, should be proud of their employees, should be proud of their staff, and try to get on board instead of beating them up all the time. Right there's a 10-inch line. If you look at the creek, the edge of the creek's where the road used to be. We replaced every bit of that in-house, had it done in one day, backfilled and ready to drive on. That's something that you just don't see at other municipalities. When I first come here, that would have been contracted out. I get my education questioned all the time. I get my KSAs questioned all the time. They don't make a degree for KSAs. Knowledge, skills, and abilities, I earned every one of them. I don't have to tell people what I got. It don't matter. I can show you on paper anytime you're ready where we have saved this town millions, not thousands, millions of tax dollars to these citizens in this town. Reason so is I got a stake in this town. This town means something to me. I was born and raised here, graduated school here. I take it personal. When I'm personally attacked, I'm gonna come back with the truth, every time. Major road system repairs that was completed. This is East College. That's what's left of it. There was a creek through there. The road is completely gone. All right? There's when it's done. It's actually paved back now. We didn't even contract the paving. We paved it back ourselves. The bad thing about it was I hated to see the taxpayers, because I just paved that road last year. It wasn't even a year old before it got tore out. But like I say, I can go on and on and on with the pictures. But the people that live here, they know. The challenges we encountered, the access to remote damage sites due to debris. We had delays in material procurement, parts availability, limited equipment, no communication, interruption to sanitation scheduling, and limited space to house employees. We currently, thank goodness, have got our temporary offices in line and should be in them within the next week, we hope. I do want to thank the fire and police for putting up with us. It's been very challenging to have their training room, but we've made it work. It's just hard to, function as a department head and not have no privacy at all. But I'm very thankful we had a place to go, and very thankful for the procurement of those offices for as long as we can have them. I'd like to touch a little bit on the limited equipment. I know through Facebook, it's been said that, we didn't get the equipment to high ground. We let equipment destroy. We let equipment flood. But the truth about it is, we were saving lives with the police and fire department, plus trying to get our equipment out when the guys got stranded in the building and we had to evacuate the hotel because nobody was over there. Now my question to Richard Hudson is, I want to know, because he posted about Ace Hardware and about everybody coming down there and get the stuff, they're having delays and stuff. I want to know if he left Black Mountain and went all the way to Tennessee and told everybody how stupid and ridiculous they was for not getting their equipment out of their buildings. I wonder if he went to Ingalls down here and told them how stupid they was for letting their tractor and trailers get washed away and a man get killed. It's all political. It's dirty politics, and that's what it is. This is the watershed. I know, Mayor, you had a bunch of questions about the watershed and about why the wells wasn't up, and and we told you because the roads were damaged, because they were inaccessible. There it is. And this right here is actually after we built it back and put the culverts in the ground. None of that was there before. That's just the minor part. That don't show the wires. That don't show the lines being tore out. That don't show anything about what it took to get in there. And also, and I'll let that's just after it's fixed back just to get us in there. But I'll let Charlie touch on this if you got any questions for him. I know the engineer for DEQ called us and said you had stopped by there and was wanting to know about the two wells that was out and why they was out, and I hope you got that information. But if you want deeper details about why they was, Charlie can answer that in detail, I promise.
I got the information.
Okay, very good. Recovery partnerships. Town staff coordinated emergency repairs. Contractors and engineering teams mobilized. Collaboration with North Carolina DEQ, FEMA, North Carolina Emergency Management, North Carolina Water Warren. I'd like to say Water Warren was a big help during the storms. They actually supplied our water lines and stuff and got them in here by tractor and trailer. And I don't know if I ever thanked you, Steve, for the escort up the mountain and having the mountain blocked. When they had it blocked, make sure they get them up here, that way we could get stuff fixed. This picture I wanted to add in there, we was invited, this is all the department heads, we were divided to Orange County Emergency Management in recognition of the good job we done. They took us down there for the day, they fed us, they was actually going to fly us by private jet, believe it or not, which I've never flown, so that would have been a first for me. But I sort of didn't want to either, so it worked out. And So anyway, it's very nice of them. They recognize us for the job that we done, and there's actually videos of it, but I didn't want this report to be too long. But I will say on top of that, after we had our post-meeting with emergency management, Jeremy Knighton with the city of Asheville, he's an engineer for their emergency management. When we done our post-ops, the way we set it up and the way we responded, and I'm proud of this for all departments, because it's me, Steve, and John all together putting our heads together. They are now using our response to go across other municipalities as to what to use. That's how impressed they was by it. So that's something I'm very proud of. I'm very proud of the team. And they just done an amazing job. You got one of the best teams in town right now that we've ever had in my 20 years. Funding, repair cost, North Carolina DEQ, that's the loan that y'all have heard about many times from Jessica. It's $457,000. We have all prepared documentation for FEMA. I dream about it at night. I can promise you that. All of us do. Reimbursement will allow repayment of North Carolina DEQ loan. Expenses for staff, materials, and equipment will be reimbursed by FEMA. I know we've talked about that a bunch too. And the total small project request approximately, I don't have a number for that now. Jessica's probably still knee-deep in that. So once that comes about, we'll have a better number for that. What we've learned from this: faster access to emergency funding needed, importance of documentation and asset mapping, build redundancy and elevation into vulnerable assets, sort of like a public works building, which, you know, we don't know what that'll cost yet, but that's something else that we're working on. Public education is key, and misinformation and disinformation. And you know, I studied a lot before I gave this report, because this is unlike any report I've ever done. But it goes on and on and on and on. And I'll just be honest with you, it's getting old. It's getting very old. And nobody that's in my 20 years that's ever been here has ever called this stuff out in public. And I'm not job scared, okay? I'll have a job tonight before this gets put on Facebook, I promise you, if it need be. I want to stay here as long as I can. I love this town. I love who I work for. He's a good man. I don't care what Facebook says. But this is stuff like we deal with all day. All day long. Most of the board members believe whatever he says. For some reason, you're correct. The garbage truck and golf course equipment are enough to summarily fire him. But they obviously don't care what his decision-making costs the taxpayer. He also is a known liar. I'm going to stop right there. I don't need you to read no more. But I'm going to tell you something, Josh Howard. You're not a liar. I've dealt with a lot of liars. You ain't one of them. Okay? Right there's the 5 elements of defamation. I ain't even going to read them, because people's going to have access to this report. But I'm going to say, you better be careful. Just be careful. That's all I'm going to say. When you put in stuff right there, he's a known liar. Go over and look at the defamation causes. It's getting bold, that's all I'm saying. And then last but not least, in March, I was not able to be here in April. But there was a disgruntled employee that showed up here that just happened to work for me. They had a lot of the defamation stuff to say about me and this gentleman sitting right here, about how we don't know nothing, we don't know this, and we don't know that. But to stay on the professional side, I'm not going to go where he did. Okay? I'm just not going to do that. And I hope I've been professional here tonight. I'm just speaking the truth. That's all I want to do. But I will say this. Those violations that he spoke of, there were 3. 2 of those was the 2 wells that was contaminated, which is protocol. The other one was sent out, our water system wasn't even working. It's standard protocol. But going back and looking from his tenure, he had 82 violations in 22 years. That's 4 violations a year on average. And there's a lot more to that story, and I'll just leave it there. Disgruntled employees, research them, especially if they're going to run for alderman or councilman. And there's the chart, and that's public record. Looking ahead, continue recovery and rebuild smarter. Prioritize the infrastructure, resilience in our CIP, explore regional emergency backup, and inform and involve residents. And that's something that we've really tried to do since I've come here. You know, we put stuff on Facebook, we put stuff on Town of Black Mountain site, we send out mailing lists, we do this, we do that. I think we do really good. And before my report's over, I would just like to read one thing, but before I end. Let me put my eyeballs on, I remembered them this time. Public services exist at the intersection of democracy and responsibility, but that intersection is becoming harder to navigate. A growing number of people view government as a punching bag, where frustration meets face and criticism becomes a substitute for participation. They don't see the intricate balance public servants manage every day, ensuring streets are safe, water flows, and systems function, while simultaneously juggling political mandates, budget constraints, societal demands. Instead, they see scapegoats. Misinformation doesn't just distort reality, it creates an alternate one, where expertise is dismissed and the loudest voices drown out the most qualified ones. Democracy thrives when the public is informed, but right now we're asking it to survive in a world where clicks outweigh context and outrage eclipse accountability. If a nation expects to be ignorant and free, it expects what never was and never will be. Local government wasn't built to withstand ignorance on this scale. It was built to manage the practical realities of everyday life, roads, schools, safety, not to referee a public that has confused entitlement with engagement. What is being forgotten is that public service isn't just about implementing policies or managing resources. It's about holding the fabric of communities together. It's about ensuring that cities remain functional despite polarization, misinformation, and apathy. And yet, those who do this work are increasingly vilified as part of the problem. Blaming local government's easy. Learning how it works isn't. And that's the real divide we're facing. Not between left and right, but between those who engage and those who throw stones from a distance. A dangerous misconception we face today is that democracy runs on autopilot. It doesn't. It requires constant maintenance, informed debate, and a public willing to rise above sound bites and outrage to engage with the realities of governance. Public service doesn't fail when the public disagrees with a decision. It fails when the public stops trying to understand why decisions are made. This isn't just about protecting the profession of public administration. It's about protecting democracy itself. When talent flees public service because they're tired of being scapegoated, when professionals are replaced by political operatives, and when local government is dismantled in the name of short-term wins, we lose more than a system, we lose the future. Misinformation is a weapon, but it's not the truth. If this generation of public servants can't reclaim the narrative, if we don't remind people that public service is the backbone of democracy, we risk becoming a population that knows the price of everything but the value of nothing. Local government operates in reality, or at least it's supposed to, but every day we're asked to reconcile expectations that don't align. People want low taxes. The people want low taxes, high quality service, extreme efficiency, and low density living all at once. They want roads without potholes, emergency services that arrive in minutes, parks that are pristine, and infrastructure that never fails. Yet they also demand fewer taxes, less government oversight, and a streamlined bureaucracy. It is a wish list that, when placed together, collapses under the weight of its own contradictions. We taught a generation that government can be all things to all people for free. We lied. It can't. Every dollar spent in one area is a dollar denied in another, and every dollar taxed is a dollar denied to a taxpayer. What complicates this future is that people want inefficiencies fixed, but only where it doesn't affect them. The underlying message is unmistakable. Fix the inefficiency, just not in what I value. Address everything else, but leave my services untouched. Streamline the system, but don't cut my program. Reduce spending, but not in my backyard. These conflicting demands are not just theoretical. They're playing out right now in every city council meeting, budget session, and public hearing across the country. Local governments are the last line of defense against the chaos created by the unrealistic expectations. Unlike state or federal governments, we can't print money, ignore the numbers, or pretend the math will work itself out. Every decision we make is tied to the finite resources, real budgets, and the reality that trade-offs are unavoidable. Every day we face pressure to deliver the impossible. Social media fuels misinformation, spreading the idea that every problem has an easy solution, that experts are somehow the enemy. Citizens are taught to believe that no better than those who have dedicated their lives to this work, and outrage take the place of understanding. The hyper-political and antitrust of the government, rhetoric, and environment at the national and sometimes state level has fueled this. The result is a perfect storm of public demand, political pandering, and a refusal to face reality. Local leaders are expected to fix everything with fewer resources than our counterparts, by far. Meanwhile, we're told to cut bureaucracy, improve efficiency, and keep taxes low, all while delivering more than ever before. This isn't fantasy land, it's real life. We're working every day to make the best decisions possible for the communities we serve, but there's a limit. Government is not magic, money doesn't grow on trees, and for every service provided to one, something else has to be sacrificed. We need to stop pretending we can have it all and start grappling with the reality that priorities mean choices. The work of local government is rooted in those choices. I thank you for letting me present tonight. I respect each and every one of you. I do. But the truth has to come out sooner or later. I don't appreciate being personally attacked by anyone, and when I am, I will combat it with the truth. Thank you.
And I want to ask some questions here since you brought it up and have directed these digs directly at me.
Yes, sir.
No one else. But
Oh, no, there's plenty of others, Mayor.
You directed them to me, so I will respond to those.
Okay, I'd be more than glad to hear that.
One of the things on there about a plan is that one of the things that happened years ago with Hurricane Francis and Irene is that we ended up losing our whole water system because we didn't have the proper cutoffs. And at that time, then Bob Watts went ahead and devised a system to where we could have cutoffs, so we would have zones. I spoke with you and with Charlie about trying to bring, let's bring part of this town back on in zones. And at that time, and that was the plan that I was talking about. Let's bring it on, bring the downtown on first in that zone 1, or whatever you call that zone. Put that downtown. And then we'll go on and try to get other zones done as soon as we could get water. But that never happened. That was the plan that I'm talking about. And of course, then again, we didn't get water from these wells until March. And that's the reason why. And that's the reason why I've been asking the questions about why.
And we're more than willing to answer those questions. And I did answer those questions.
Well, not really.
But you didn't take them to blink.
Not really. I mean, you gave information up there, and we're not going to get into super debate, but I've asked about that and have not gotten the information on the parts that we needed, when they got here, and why it would take so long. There's millions of wells in the United States.
They are.
There's millions of wells.
But you gotta be able to get to them.
Didn't take 5 months to get to them. You also mentioned about
You couldn't have got water.
moving the trucks down here.
That's right. I've
Frank
heard that.
Polk used to have the Ford dealership and the Chevy dealership down there.
Yeah.
And every time that there was a call for heavy rain, Frank Polk would go ahead and move those cars uptown out of both dealerships.
That parking
So-
lot has got water in it. That building has never flooded since it's been built, ever. It's not even in the floodplain, Mayor. And to
There
go
was
back to
water
that
there, that's
sign in the
what-
mirror, why did, so I'm not, you're right, I'm not gonna debate with you. Everybody's on Facebook. Richard lets the cat out of the bag all the time about you and his relationship, and everybody knows it.
No,
That sign
that's
was
not-
took down in the mirror, or in that window the same day. We're out saving people. Do you know how many times on Facebook that I've sat there and see him down me and everybody else and call for our jobs and say that we're not qualified or that we're cheerleaders? You dang right, I'm a cheerleader, because while I'm up here trying to wonder if my family's even alive, okay? No communication at all. No, hold on a minute. You asked me a question, I'll answer. While we're trying to figure out if our families are even alive, he's up here politicking. I mean, you're not gonna change my mind, I'm sorry, I'm not dumb, it's insulting my intelligence.
So, and I wish that we could go ahead and make sure, one last thing, because Kirby, the guy from Raleigh, was an excellent man up here to
He
help
was,
direct the
I
show.
agree, he was.
One of the things that Kirby said was, what we've got to do in the future is make sure that we have standard operational procedures, and I hope that you gentlemen are getting these for the future.
Well, I can answer that. We done that 2 years ago, and the engineers that we hired to do it, and I can show you this on paper once we get in our container down there, we are rated 20% higher than any other municipality for emergency management response.
Okay.
So
Anyone else have anything to say? If not, thank you.
Excuse me, Jamie, I have a couple questions. First of all, thank you. One thing I think about all the time is, I think about this almost every day. I think about how in the days following the storm, especially that first couple days, your team deployed with the firefighters and the police. We're working on the front lines to clear trees, to clear power lines, so that they could have access to homes and families and people who needed your assistance. And while our firefighters and police are trained for that type of situation, your men and women oftentimes aren't. And I think about what we asked of them and what, as a town and as a community, and I'm just eternally grateful for how they serve this community and what they did for us post-storm and what they continue to do for us.
Thank you very much. And, I will say that during that whole storm, I seen each and every one of you every day at some point. And that goes a long ways, and I appreciate that. Each and every one of you come and checked on us, asked us how we was doing, asked if we needed help, and asked how our families was, or, we had to send employees home, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but they seen some stuff. And, I seen each one of these guys and girls at some time during the storm break down in the road and cry. And then they pulled themselves back together and went back at it and got it done. And, I know it's been many months later, it's went by really, really quick. But, to be called cheerleaders and talk about how good a cheerleaders are when we're trying to keep a whole town uplifted while we don't even know if our relatives are alive, that stung me pretty deep, and it continues to. But I continue. I was reading a thing about eagles one night, because I like to read, and they was talking about eagles and crows. And it was talking about how the crow's always after the eagle, riding his back, pulling the feathers out of his neck constantly, just irritating him all the time. But the crow, he didn't realize that the eagle can go to different altitudes than the crow. And the way the eagle got rid of the crow is he went to altitudes where the crow couldn't breathe, and the morning he fell off. And that's sort of the way I like to carry my life. I like to think when people get on me, I'll just take the high road. But I'll be honest, I'm not one of them people to just sit back and not point, I've never done a report like this and never thought I'd ever have to. But enough's enough. These guys and girls work their butts off, and I've been here 20 years, and this is one of the best leadership teams and most qualified leadership teams I've ever stepped my foot with a building with. And if I left here today, I still have that same thought. They're the best I've ever worked with. This town is blessed. You take me out of it, I don't even be a part of it. That bunch of people standing back there in that hallway, you don't get no more qualified than they are. You know, ever since I've worked for this town, it's always been y'all against us. And I'm not talking about you personally. Ryan, you've been here a long time. You've seen a lot of stuff, and I'm not calling you out. You and Mike both, you've seen a lot of stuff. But sometime or another, you gotta put some trust in your employees. We're here to help. We care about this town. I mean, we care about this town deeply and the people in it. There's good staff here. That's the best town manager I've ever worked for in 20 years, and I figured it up the other night. I've worked for 7 of them. And I've had a couple good ones, but that right there is the best one. And you know why? Every Monday morning, to every staff in this town, he sends out some kind of encouraging note to staff. You got a problem, he'll be the first one at your house helping you out. He's encouraging. He's truthful. He's honest. Is he going to make mistakes? Yeah, he's going to make mistakes. Am I going to make mistakes? Every day. Where the problem is when you don't learn from them. But without y'all's support, he's got an uphill battle. And we do too. You know, we can only give you the best information that we can provide you. And I promise you, as long as I'm here, you can double check me and go behind me all you want to. What I tell you is going to be what it is. I mean, it's just what it is. I have no reason to lie about it. But I'm very proud of the staff, and I love this town. I got a part in this town. This is my town. And as long as I'm here, I'm going to do the best to save the taxpayers' money with what I got to work with. But I'm going to refuse to be personally attacked. You don't pay me to be personally attacked. And I'm just not going to put up with it. And, you know, I hate it had to be that way. But I love each and every one of you. I love people. I've helped a lot of people in this town on a personal level and a private level. But I ain't never helped nobody outside of what policy said we could. And that's a fact.
If you may quickly, just talk about what challenges we have ahead. Are we fully back to where we were pre-storm as far as all of the...
Charlie, you want to give a brief overview of our water system, about those 2 wells, why they were shut down, what was our challenges in the watershed, and why it took so long to get those sheds back online?
So the 2 wells in reference that have been shut off, and they were well before the storm. Well 1 was the first one I shut off on the golf course. It was starting to show for pesticides and herbicides infiltrating the groundwater. And then it got a really bad infiltration of sand and debris from an aquifer somewhere. It needed to be lined, and it wasn't worth the cost to keep it online, especially it was going to require filtration to clean the water up to where it wasn't an issue for, you know, safe water. So shut it off. Well 5 got probably one of the highest hits I've seen in my whole entire career for pesticides. And I was like, whoa.
And that's Montreat
yeah,
College, right?
yeah, that's down right in the middle of their sports complex. They're not supposed to spray chemicals, but it happens. But so as soon as I got that, I called Jamie, talked to Josh. It wasn't worth what it was going to take, and it's too big of a safety hazard to keep something like that online, because if filtration fails, you're putting it into your distribution system. And there's no need. And then the watershed, for the first, 3 months of everything, it was in such bad shape, we didn't even put any time or effort into dealing with it.
Which we couldn't anyway, because Asheville, we get a certain percentage of that water from Asheville. Their water was not potable anyway, so even if ours would have been back online, you still couldn't have drunk it.
Yeah, because it's all a blended system, 100% blended. We have no control over that. And time we got in there, and you'd fix one problem, you'd move right to the next problem. The power was the biggest issue in there. Phase reversals, there's some pretty neat stuff happened in there. I've seen breakers blown out of panel boxes, whole entire motor starters blown apart. They're not designed for what they went through. Insurance company, believe me, has pictures. I've probably spent now about 120 hours between the insurance company and FEMA. If we'd have just hired a news crew on the first day to go around with me, we'd have been a whole lot better off. Saved me a whole bunch of time. But Yeah, so that's where we stand, and we're back to probably about 96% for our water system, as far as, things are still hodgepodge together, but we're functioning, for the most part.
And do we have current funding from that DEQ loan to fix the hodgepodgeness and get it back, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're in the process of doing that now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All in process.
So they, during that process too, Asheville was good enough to where when, Charlie was pulling samples, we could run to their lab right up there at Norfolk, and have our water tested. So that was one reason we was able to get back online too. But until they passed their test and got back online, then there was no way we would let anybody here go back online and drink water because of our blended water. And yes, it took 5 months, but there was a lot went on, and, the one good thing about it is too, it gave us time to get parts in, because even if, like I say, if the wells would have been back online, we still couldn't have put them in the system, we couldn't have used them anyway. We had to wait on Asheville, which, we were back online, a good month or two before Asheville. 2 months, I believe, before they ever come back online, because they had to treat for sediment and all that.
So you're saying then that we were back online before March?
Our system, our distribution system was, we had
functional.
several wells that were still out. Like I remember, we come in on a Saturday one day and replaced the whole well, which, we done that too, so.
So not all the wells were working?
Just
But you're saying the distribution, as the pipes and the
Yes.
valves,
Yeah, the
they
distribution.
were fine?
We got
But it was just, you're saying you got those done before Asheville's valves and pipes got done?
Oh, yeah.
Not before water was flowing through them?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so that's just a different thing as far as
Yeah, we fixed
distribution versus production.
We fixed our distribution system first, everything out in the system, and then, we got these huge pumps in, which we hooked our hydrants down here on 70 to pull water from Asheville, because with an empty system, you don't know where it's leaking at. So we were pulling non-potable water from Asheville, which was showing us the leaks, and then we could go out and actually fix those leaks. So, but I will tell you this, I want to thank Fayetteville and Owasso too, which is Orange County. They come up and helped us during that storm and helped us put our system back together, and they done an amazing job. And, that helped us too, with our crews and them working together. I think it's Fayetteville. Was it Fayetteville or Owasso stayed in the settings the whole time? Fayetteville, wasn't it? And, they had their hands full, but there again, it goes to having those relationships with people and people wanting to, we had people from Texas and everywhere reaching out. We actually had so much help we had to start turning it away, but we, for a whole, as far as what we've been through, we're in really good shape. I actually went to Greensboro today, hadn't been back long, and purchased us another boom truck. It's used, but it's in very good shape, and completely went through and got it for a third of the cost of what a new one costs. So we'll be picking it up this week, and we can start getting some of those bigger brush piles picked up. So that's good news too.
Anybody else got anything?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the first time after the storm, I think. I mean, I know you worked here, but I didn't normally encounter you. And,
I didn't know who most of you were until this. And I've been here for 10 years. I couldn't pick you out of a lineup.
You don't see Charlie much. He's usually testing and.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's, every staff member has ideas about what we could do better if another storm comes, and we need to be ready for that. We learn a lot in these situations, and we could do this, we could do that, and it's just super important to document it, and I know you all are, what we could do better. But 43 trillion gallons is a lot to plan for, and that's
Yeah, I mean,
can't even fathom it.
It destroyed different states all the way through. I do a lot of traveling, and I was in Louisiana last month, and Alabama and Kentucky, and you go through Tennessee, the devastation over there where it hit that gas line plant and killed all those people. It's just, it's amazing what people went through that, and people live with that for a long time. But I'm very pleased for the town of Black Mountain and where we're at. And it, you know, it's from great leadership, and it starts at the top and it works down. And, you know, y'all got tough decisions to make. You know, I'm not a golfer. I'm an outdoors guy, so I don't got no dog in the fight on that. But we all got our passions, you know, and y'all got tough decisions. And but I commend you for it. I commend you wanting to be those servants. And
Well, just to be fair, I filed in July to run. It was before the storm.
you didn't second guess it, did you?
But I'm here. I'm grateful.
Yeah, thank y'all very much.
Anybody else have anything you want to ask them? If not, let's take a 5-minute break.
April 2nd, 2025, April 9th, 2025, April 10th, 2025, April 14th, 2025, April 23rd, 2025, and May 1st, 2025. 5B will be the extension of the tax collection agreement with Buncombe County. 5C will be consideration of a couple of budget amendments. 5D is our 2025 audit contract and audit engagement letter with Gould Killian. This will be our third year with this auditing firm. Monthly tax collector report. And lastly, a call for a public hearing on a franchise renewal with Enbridge, formerly Dominion Energy, for natural gas utilities. And that'll be your consent agenda. That would be, that public hearing would be in June next month.
I had a couple questions of clarification. One is on 5D, the audit contract. It lists a major project account. I just wanted to make sure I was following, major program, fee for major program. Is this the same agreement we've had the previous 2 years, or is there a new?
I think there's a new, and I'll let Tammy talk, but there's a little bit, it is the same? Same as last year.
Thank you. And the second question is the call for public hearing. It's listed as a draft, and I was just curious, should I go ahead and read the draft that we have here, or should I wait?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. That's the one that we will be discussing. We're not waiting on further.
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. That's all I got.
Anyone want to make a motion to adopt consent agenda?
So moved.
Any discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
That's done.
All right. Item 6 will be your public hearings. We've got 3 of them. First one being a public hearing for voluntary annexation of property owned by Givens Highland Farms. And I'll turn it over to Jessica to give you the presentation.
Good evening. There's a good one. So we have 2 public hearings back to back for these parcels. So right here you can see where the 2 parcels are. Let me scooch back in my notes. It's big enough to be read. So there are 2 parcels. One is on Francis Avenue. That pin is 0609564489, and then on 320 Tabernacle Road, which is 0609561464. Highland Farms has purchased these and would like to annex them and bring them into their master plan, and the structures there will be demolished. And you can see that's just with the contours. Oops. So this is always an experiment, you know. When I started here 8 years ago, I didn't have gray hair or reading glasses. Now I have both. So a voluntary annexation application includes these elements. And it has the 2 parcels. The tract size is 320, is just over half an acre. And the one on Francis is just over 3. There is very minimal slope on both of these parcels. You see the existing uses, 320 Tabernacle has a 1-story house, is manufactured housing. And then on Francis Avenue, there is an old barn structure. And then public notification is sent out per general statute. There's no overlay districts involved. There's no floodplain. There is a small water course on Francis. Water, sewer are not applicable in this situation. There are no landscaping requirements. The street classification is a state roadway, and then Francis Avenue is separate and private. The site, there's access to the site from an easement from Tabernacle Road, and there's no requirement for traffic impact analysis in land use code for this use, for this purpose. And there are no sidewalks on Tabernacle Road or Francis. So if you remember, in Elevate Black Mountain, we have some criteria that we run by annexation applications for consistency purposes. And so criteria 1 is that it aligns with the comprehensive plan. The proposed annexation is consistent with the town's comprehensive plan, particularly the future land use map, which designates the area as institutional or supportive residential uses, which aligns with Highland Farms uses. And it meets town goals for aging in place, housing diversity, and access to healthcare services. Criteria 2 is that it's contiguous to town boundaries, which these parcels are. Criteria 3 creates a logical town boundary. The annexation would eliminate small unincorporated pockets surrounded by the town. If you remember, and I don't have a graphic up here, but in Elevate, we had a study area outside of the town boundary proper that we considered for annexation criteria and land use types. And so that's what that's referencing. Consistent with interjurisdictional agreements, there are none that apply. Supported services from public services. Town staff have reviewed the area. There's adequate public services, including police, fire, sanitation, and inspections that can be provided in the near term. It demonstrates community benefit. The annexation and future development will support senior services and institutional growth. Utility service. Utility access is available without burden. Support by public school framework. This does not have impact on the public school system due to the age of the folks who are moving into that area. And consisting with transportation investments. It is served by existing transportation infrastructure, so it would not need additional transportation infrastructure expanded in order to accommodate the services. So planning board supported this annexation. If you remember, the annexations do not get a vote. It is just a comment by the planning board. And so their comment, they recommended the rezoning and for the 2 parcels, and that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and the benefits outweigh any impacts to the requirement, and the lot requirements and uses are similar to those in Valley Residential, which is the use type in the future land use map. And that is your presentation of the application for a voluntary annexation.
Okay, do I hear any motion to open up a public hearing?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is now open. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward. Not seeing anybody, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now, we need a motion to approve the voluntary annexation.
I did want to call attention to, in the summary of the agenda item, we have a message from the planning board, or it reads, the planning board made 1 comment to request that Gibbons Highland Farms not use the access easement from Tabernacle Road to access the properties. Is that part of the discussion for tonight?
No, that
Okay.
is,
That was just being reflected from the meeting.
That is
as a
right.
comment. Okay, thank you.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I move to approve the ordinance rezoning properties known as 99999 Francis Avenue and 320 Tabernacle Road from R1 to OI-6.
We're on annexation.
That's rezoning.
Oh,
So you can do that one in a minute.
Yeah, we'll do that.
thank you.
Okay.
I move to approve the voluntary annexation of property known as 99999 Francis Avenue and 320 Tabernacle Road into the town of Black Mountain.
Any discussion?
I went 1 too far.
If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, completed. All right. 6B, Justin.
Mr. Patillo, we'll catch up with you. So we have a rezoning request from petitioner for the proposed use for institutional expansion of Gibbons Highlands Farms. So currently it is zoned R1 in Buncombe County, and the requested zoning is OI-6, which is consistent with the rest of Highland Farms master planned area. And you can see the R1 and the OI-6 right there from the town boundary to the surrounding county parcels.
Very good.
So those are your sizes. Sizes are touch off, but they're wooded, undeveloped, they're adjacent to the campus, and there's a single structure there, but there's no intention to reuse that. It's just there. It's very consistent with what is surrounding the developed area, and there's no major surprises here. The district comparison, this compares the R1 district to the OI6 district, just for reference. So OI6 is a more intense use than what the county has on those two parcels, but does align with what it abuts with the current master planned area of Gibbons Highlands Farms. And so I mentioned the comprehensive plan and Elevate. These are the use types in the future land use plan. That's the picture I was thinking of a few minutes ago. And so institutional campus areas and the continued and future areas expansion for new developed academic, religious, government, and similar types of campus arrangements. And it should generally maintain overall design and integrity of a campus facility, which Highland Farms Master Plan does, and include a variety of different uses that meet the daily needs of its residents. So this is the master plan, just for reference. It's been a while since you might have seen that.
North is to the right on this photo.
Yes, it is not turned to the right way, so it fits. So you can see it a little better.
North is to the right.
But that shaded area is the new parcels or no?
No, can you point out on there the adjacent parcels?
This is actually 3 parcels. This first piece was a trailer park, and that was annexed last year. I believe this time was in May or last year. And then these are the other 2 parcels, and this is the current concept for duplexes that we intend to build on that property.
Thank you.
And of course, be aware that this is a general rezoning.
That's right.
So all the available uses allowed in OI6 are the menu of choices, and even though this is a concept plan, this is not really material relevant for your consideration on the rezoning.
They do have an approved master plan.
For this piece of property that's not been annexed.
Not for the annexed part, you're right, but
That's
for the
what I'm
rest
talking
of it.
about. So anyway, it is what it is, just an accurate statement of the law that I'm telling you.
Yes.
I'm not saying pro or a con, I'm just saying you shouldn't consider this plan as being gospel.
Okay.
So planning board voted unanimously to approve the OI6 designation. That is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and the benefits outweigh any impacts, and the lot requirements and its uses are similar to those in Valley Residential. And that is the presentation for the rezoning.
Okay, do I hear a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to speak to this, please come forward. All right, not seeing anybody. I hear a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now do I have a motion to rezone those 2 parcels from R1 to OI6, or 16?
So you sure I have it right this time?
Yes, it is.
Do I have it right this time?
Yeah.
I move to approve the ordinance rezoning properties known as 99999 Francis Avenue to 320 Tabernacle Road from R1 to OI6, Office and Institutional District.
All right, all in favor? Gets the motion. Any discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, it passes.
And now, you will have your public hearing next for Chapter 8. Numerous sections, but this is in relation to our Phase 2 Stormwater Ordinance. And we're going to have Jessica and maybe Ann? Ann come up. Sorry, Ann is our stormwater guru of the town. She does stormwater regulations and floodplain for us.
Yes.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Ready? So both Ann and I are going to speak to this. I'm just really going to kind of give some context and then let Ann go over some of the finer points. We developed a very stringent post-construction stormwater ordinance some years ago before we had a stormwater master plan, before we had dedicated staff, and before we had other tools to deal with stormwater. And at the time, was the only regulation we had to put our arms around and say, okay, we'll just make it more, and that'll help, because that's all we got. So that is what we did. And since then, we have found that it has created a huge administrative burden on staff and a huge financial burden and compliance burden on many people in town who are primarily single-family property owners. The NPDES permit, which we are under, requires action at 1 acre. It assumes that the impacts of stormwater are really felt at an acre or greater, that that's where the risk is the tipping point, is what that assumes. We made our ordinance try to fit the development pattern of our town, because we would rarely utilize a regulation that tipped at an acre. But what we found is that it did not help in the ways that we expected. We ended up using a huge amount of resources on a very small number of parcels for minimal demonstrative benefit. So when we developed a more compliant plan with our NPDES permit, we hired and developed the utility. We really expanded our resources to grapple with stormwater. And I don't want to use stormwater interchangeably with flash flooding, or things like that, but I mean true stormwater management, water quality and water quantity. And we found that we wanted to invest in a wider net and work with more people in the community. And we could do that by increasing the threshold for triggering these activities to half an acre, which would still capture things, think about maybe a bank or a doctor's office, parking lots, things like this, and it would still apply to residential developments, which we do a lot more of than banks and parking lots, but would alleviate burden on individual property owners who have been caught up in this over a period of years. It would also make the administration of this much easier, which means that we can implement other parts of our stormwater master plan. We have basin projects called for in our master plan, which are very exciting, which essentially call for large areas of town to have small cells of green infrastructure on their private property that is installed voluntarily through small programs administered by the stormwater department. And these have been modeled by engineers to show reductions in flash flooding impacts, nuisance flooding, and nutrients in stormwater. So those are all really big wins that we are not able to go after right now because we are chasing paperwork from 100 property owners who hate us for making them do it in the first place. So we're trying to make this a win-win across the board. And we met with the state in September. And so this is one of the fall projects that we're just getting back around to. We met with the state, and they also brought some of these changes to our attention that would alleviate some risk in the administration of this ordinance and make it possible for us to do bigger and better things. And to that effect, we spent a lot of time revising this ordinance. Some of it's for readability. You're going to see lots of little dashes. Some is for clarity. The rest is to reflect things we just chatted about, and the others are to better align with the actual NPDES permit. There were some structures in there for high and low density projects that we needed to shore up. So we took it to planning board. They loved it, not to give a spoiler, but it was well received. So that's the context of how we got here. It took a lot of work, a lot of headaches, but I'm excited about the direction it's going. So Ann's going to walk through some of the more substantive elements of this change.
Thank you, Jessica. So Jessica gave a really good overview of the reasons why we even took a look at updating this ordinance. In the time since I've been here as your stormwater administrator technician, we've tried to reduce the burden that this ordinance currently assigns to those property owners that are stewarding the stormwater control measures that they were required to put in under this ordinance. We took down the annual inspection from every year that was required to every 3 years, and the town would do the off years with an idea of, reducing the burden on these single-family home owners. And just recently, I think it was last year, we went from requiring a professional engineer or an architect for one of these inspections to actually allowing people to use what's called an SCM inspector that's certified through NCSU, and they could even become one of those inspectors themselves. And the reason why we're doing all this is, in my time here, I'm hearing from all residents that have this requirement, that this is a financial burden, and it is not something that we have, as Jessica mentioned, data to show that it's this small amount of SCMs is producing a water quality benefit, when what we do have is in our stormwater master plan update, engineers that have said, if you can reduce the, if you can increase the disconnect of downspouts in certain areas by a certain amount, reducing the impervious surface, that does have a substantive water quality benefit, and that's something we could do as a voluntary program. Currently, the administration of the requirement for these inspections and the O&Ms that are recorded after the fact, after they've been implemented, is taking a lot of time. And we also didn't have the connection with the DEQ requirements with the low and the high density projects in our ordinance. So what we're looking at here is a proposal to, instead of have the threshold for the stormwater permit to be 5,000 square feet of impervious, to instead have it be a disturbance threshold, which is how NCDEQ really had expected it to be. So at a half acre of disturbance with a project, then you trigger a stormwater permit, and then that bifurcates into either a high density permit or a low density permit. And high density would be 24% or more built upon area. High density permit also has the requirement through DEQ, and what would need to be put into our ordinance to be a renewable permit. So every 8 years, the high density permit holders would need to renew the permit, and that's to really track change in ownership. That's how DEQ has explained it to us. And we have a new DEQ administrator for the MS4 program, and he has basically helped us understand that, what we can do to align with their requirements, instead of just saying, well, that's not applicable, we don't have that here, which is kind of the advice we got previous. So what we'd like to do is have our stormwater ordinance both reflect what we're required to do through the NPDES permit and the state's auditing of that, and that is to have a disturbance threshold that triggers the permit, and then have high and low density stormwater permits, which then I would then inspect on a certain frequency. And you'll see this, we'll walk through the amendments here as well. But the low density permits would need to be inspected by me once a permit cycle, so once every 5 years. The high density permits would be twice a permit cycle. And that permit cycle is 5 years of the NPDES permit. So there are...
So low is once every 5 years, high density is twice
yes.
every 5 years?
Yes.
By the town, yes.
And that is in addition to the requirements of the stormwater ordinance for the permit holder, which is to have an annual inspection. That could be with an engineer, an architect, or an SEM inspector certified through NCSU. That could be the property owner themselves. They can take the course themselves if they like. Again, with an idea of saving them money to do that.
What is the course? How long does that take? I mean, you're not giving the specifics, but I'm saying, is that the course that they go online? Do they have to go somewhere? Does it cost them money? Do you have to pass a test?
So it can be online or in person. It is offered, I think, once or twice a year. I believe it's in July is usually when it's offered. I think it's once online and perhaps once in person. I can't remember exactly, but you do have the option. And then it is $250, or at least it was last year. And that is good for, I believe it's 3 years. Yes,
Right.
thank you.
How long does it take for someone to complete the course?
A day and a half, one full day and then a half day, and then they take a test, as you mentioned, yeah.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, and another amendment you'll find as we walk through this is that instead of turning that into the town, they'll keep those annual inspections on site to be reviewed by the town as needed. And in that way, they're compliant with our ordinance and with the need to inspect and maintain their SEMs according to their maintenance agreement. So this update doesn't change anything about the requirements for an SEM in terms of water quality and water retention, things like that. It also doesn't change anything about if you're required to have an SEM, then you need to record an operations and maintenance agreement. That is still required, and that would tell the property owner, okay, here's how you maintain your SEM. If you sell the property, this is recorded with the Register of Deeds, and the next person will know how to maintain it. So any more general questions? Otherwise, I'll walk you through what we're proposing. Okay, so you see a whole bunch of red taking out here in the general section. That is just kind of making it more succinct. Really, this ordinance seeks to meet the requirements for the town's National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, or NPDS permit. That is a requirement through the Clean Water Act, and the administration is by the state, and we're required to be in compliance with that permit. Under 8.2.2, I wanted to mention the big change here is the change in the threshold in section B, where disturbance of 1/2 an acre of land or more in all zoning districts, with the exception of Central Business District, where a stormwater permit would be required for 1 acre or greater of disturbance. And what we've also done, I'll just draw your attention to it now, is added the definition of disturbance to the last section, 8.2.29. So disturbance of land, any man-made change to the land surface that may result in soil erosion or has a potential to change its runoff characteristics, including construction activities such as clearing, grading, excavation, or the filling of land. And that is definition comes from the NCDEQ Supplemental Guide to Basin-Wide Planning, and that's where we essentially got that definition, but we wanted to have it housed in the ordinance so people can understand. That's some feedback we got from the planning board. So that was something we incorporated. And if anything is redeveloped in section C4, you'll see really whether or not it needs a stormwater permit would be according to the amount of disturbance proposed within the redevelopment. And yes.
While we're in this section, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. In part B, I'm just curious, kind of the thoughts about the Central Business District having a higher threshold. If you could speak more to that rationale.
I might turn that one over to Jessica.
Sure.
I believe it's something to do with the historic nature.
The area downtown is already developed, and when you are trying to, it does have to do with the historic nature of it, and having lack of facilities for stormwater treatment, and the availability of connection to conveyance. That is not typical in the rest of our area.
So recognizing a pre-existing limitation.
Yes, yeah, it
I mean,
deals.
most of the Central Business District
It's
is
concrete,
paved.
It's right.
It's already impervious.
It is already impervious
Okay.
with the ability to connect to stormwater conveyance, which is limited in other parts of town.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was keeping up with y'all. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. And then the next section I'd like to talk about is 8.2.4, which really just clarifies that when we say design manual, so you can see the current ordinance says reference to design manual, but it doesn't specify which design manual. So we're talking about the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality Stormwater Design Manual. And in section B here, we say that we're adopting it by reference. So that manual has a lot more specific design requirements for different SEMs. And rather than redo that work, and we don't have an in-house group of people to redo that work, we're referring back to that design manual. And we have in the past, it's just now it's clarified that that's the design manual we're talking about. And then moving forward to 8.2.9, section E. So there's just some clarification here at the end of section E, that you can resubmit a revised application within 30 calendar days without paying an additional review fee, but then any resubmittal after the first resubmittal will be accompanied by a permit review additional fee as established by our adopted fee schedule. So that was something that the planning board had asked that we clarify as well. So that's just a small point.
Our permits are reviewed by an engineer, and so we have to compensate for his review fees through that process.
Yes. And then we go to 8.2.11, C. Permit review required for high-density projects. Post-construction stormwater permits determined to be high-density are required to be renewed every 8 years. That's one of those pieces that we want to align with DEQ's requirements for our NPDES permit. We don't currently have that in this ordinance, and it does need to be in this ordinance to be aligned with DEQ's requirements. And in that same vein, 8.2.14, high and low density projects will comply with each of the following standards requiring a stormwater permit. And I wanted to mention again, the standards remain the same. So we're not proposing changes to the standards that the SEM would need to meet. We have removed section 8.2.17, on-site wastewater. This is a requirement of NPDES permit, but it doesn't really make sense to house it here. We have an illicit discharge. We have illicit discharge code in Chapter 20, Article 10, and that it may be more appropriate to house it there. This, if you read through it, and it is scratched out here, but it's essentially talking about wastewater, domestic wastewater, and that is something that's mentioned in our MS4 permit, section 3.6.6, but it's in the context of fecal coliform contamination, and we have that specifically in our illicit discharge ordinance.
This is, remember way back when we had gone through this ordinance, it is built off a model ordinance from the School of Government from like 15 years ago-ish. And it's really as a kitchen sink approach. We don't permit septic tanks and connections to the sewer system. MSD does. So that's where this really falls into alignment with that. So we just want to remove that and lean on illicit discharge of all types.
So where does gray water figure in on this? And if somebody wants to go ahead and to use their stormwater, they're producing this water, can they put that into the stormwater system that they got?
No.
That would be a separate, they would have to design something separate for gray water, because the stormwater is meant to treat, in general, it's used to treat coming off the roof or
runoff.
Anything coming off impervious surfaces, so once the rain hits it, it needs to soak in and be treated by the earth. But if they've got a roof or they've got a parking lot, the stormwater control measure is really designed to take that water and treat it.
So this stormwater thing would not accommodate gray water, is what you're saying. They have to have another system to accommodate if they wanted to treat gray water.
Correct, yes.
When,
yes.
having tried to do this at my own house, I was told I'd have to get it permitted through the health department to have a separate system for gray water or tied to the septic tank.
I imagine we could have further discussion about that in another section, but it's a good question. It's not to do with the stormwater control measures, yeah. Section 4, maintenance, 8.2.18. This is where in Section B, we're going to clarify the required inspections for the SEM holders. So this is the property owner in town. Post-construction permit holders will annually inspect their SEMs based on the minimum criteria for the SEM type. Again, that's going to be outlined in their operations and maintenance agreement. These inspections can be conducted by the property owner or any other qualified professional they choose to retain, and the inspection is going to be kept on site and made available for inspection by the town. These inspections maintain compliance between the property owner and the town's post-construction stormwater ordinance. So there's that relationship between the permit holder and the town, and then there's the next section, Section C, which is town inspection of private SEMs. The town will inspect low-density permit SEMs once per NPDS permit cycle, so that's a 5-year cycle, and then we'll inspect high-density permits twice per NPDS permit cycle, and these will be conducted by town staff, that's me, or a contractor on behalf of the town to maintain the town's compliance with the town's NPDS small MS4 permit. So, and interestingly, the low-density permit is another, one of the things to accomplish during that permit cycle is to make sure that the impervious surface hasn't been increased during the last permit, during the last inspection, since the last inspection. And then if it goes past that 24%, it would become a high-density permit and need to be renewed every 8 years. So 8.2.19, operations and maintenance agreement, that's all the same.
Can I clarify one thing?
Oh, sure.
So what Ann just described, being the relationship between the property owner and the town and the state, was something not articulated by previous folks at the state level. So the great push from staff to get inspections conducted, because we thought, incorrectly from what we were told, is that the state was coming for us if those inspections did not occur. And the direction we were given, the clarity we've been given now through the new administration is that it's not true. They would only, if no inspections occurred, they would only be in violation with the town. The state would not be coming for us. The state will be coming for us if we're not doing the inspections that are required in the prescribed frequency of the permit cycle. So it does not, there's this two-phase responsibility that was not well articulated before.
Yes, thank you. That is a huge point. We want to make sure we're in compliance with the NPDS permit in the state, and this is part of amending our ordinance to be more clear about that.
One question.
Yes.
The homeowners can go ahead and get permitted to get the SEMs. If they choose not to, the town will come and inspect. So will the town continue to come year after year to inspect? And if so, what's that fee?
I'm a little confused, I apologize. So you're asking if a homeowner can get a permit voluntarily?
If they don't get it, and they say, no, I'm not going to that class.
I see, thank you, okay.
So that then they come to the town and say, okay, come inspect it.
So the way this is, I appreciate the question. The way this is worded here about required inspections for the permit holders, if they are a permit holder, so if they have triggered the stormwater permit and they need to have this maintenance of their SEM, they will need to annually inspect their SEM by either getting someone that's qualified to inspect it, and that could be, like I say, an engineer, architect, or an SEM inspector that's certified with NC State, or they can become their own inspector. There is no requirement.
What I'm saying is if they don't become an inspector.
Then they would have to get somebody that is qualified to
What
inspect.
does the town offer as far as inspections?
We don't offer the annual inspection. What we do is the permit required inspections on a permit cycle. So
Every 5 years.
once
If it's a low.
or
Correct,
twice, yeah.
yes. So the town would be doing those
But
permit
they could go ahead, and if
inspections.
their next door neighbor had an SEM, they could get them to come over and do it.
If they were certified, yes,
Which means they took the course, passed the test.
that's correct, yes. And then they would keep that annual inspection that certified person did on site.
That clarifies.
I appreciate that clarification, thank you. Let's see here. And then it really just, the other changes I wanted to point out were the changes in addition to the definitions. One being that disturbance of land that I read earlier, and then we have high and low density defined. So high density projects are projects that shall comply with the requirements set forth in Rule .1003, Section 3. That's the 15A NC Administrative Code 02H.1003. So that one already outlays how to calculate project density and what are the requirements for high density projects. So we're just referring back to that rather than redo that definition here. And low density similarly is if it meets the low density criteria in that same administrative code rule .1003 section 2. And again, it's no more than 24% of built upon area or no more than 2 dwelling units per acre. So those are the requirements that we've changed, things that we've changed in the ordinance and things that we've wanted to clarify in the ordinance. And as Jessica spoke to, those are the reasons why. Any other questions?
Anybody got any questions for them?
And it was recommended unanimously from planning board.
This was super helpful and covered nearly every question I had. The one that's remaining is on page 113. It's the 8.2.23 about maintaining records and strikes from that kind of a timeline of how many records folks should hold. And I did wonder, I'm sure there's logic, but maybe help me understand that change, if you would.
Essentially, it used to say the owner will keep records of inspection and repairs for at least 5 years from the date of creation of the record and will submit the same upon reasonable request to the stormwater administrator. To be honest, I don't have a reason why that was struck. Do you?
I think we just just keep holding them. It gets rid of the 5 year.
So sets the expectation that the property owner would hold them indefinitely. Okay.
Because I think the reasoning behind that, if I can put out my opinion there, is that we were requiring them to submit them to the town prior to this, and so it's really redundant to keep it for 5 years, anything more than 5 years. But now we're removing that requirement to submit the inspection to the town, and so also removing that sort of time frame that they would be required, because they're holding all the records at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
In some ways, it actually sounds more stringent because, 20, 30 years, right? You've got all these reports, but if that's gonna work for y'all, then I don't have an issue with it. I just wanted to understand.
How are we rolling this out with people who currently hold these permits?
Some people, yes. We will not enforce this ordinance anymore for those folks, and they'll be notified.
Those that don't.
The current threshold.
That are currently under the threshold?
That's right.
Okay, so we're just notifying them that they're good to go. Okay. And then for future large developments that might have smaller parcels, but you're impacting a much greater space than half an acre, that automatically triggers.
Yeah, if you're doing a residential development,
yes.
Yes. That's, but as long as it crosses that half acre of disturbance.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
I have to say, when I first heard we were taking this on and reducing the stringency right after the storm, I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense. So I do appreciate the time and effort that went into looking at this and making sure that we're getting to projects that are really going to make a tangible, measurable impact in town and not put burden on individuals so much. So thank you for all your hard work on this.
Yes, and I have to say, I'm personally very excited about the idea of making a program that's a voluntary creation of rain gardens, or storage of stormwater, that will actually, I mean, it's got engineering behind it in terms of the amount of people we can get on board will make a certain impact in terms of water quality improvement.
Well, I
So-
hope lots of folks will opt in.
Yeah.
I think that is really exciting.
Okay, is that it? Okay, do I hear a motion to open up the public hearing to amend chapter 8, section
So
All right, any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to speak to this, please come forward. Not seeing anybody, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we need a motion to approve the proposed text amendments.
I move that we approve the proposed text amendments for chapter 8, sections 8.2.2, 8.2.7, 8.2.14, 8.2.15, 8.2.18, and 8.2.29, Phase 2 Stormwater Ordinance as presented, and find that the proposed changes are consistent with current state regulations, and find that the amendments promote the general welfare.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
It passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say, I'm always impressed with your work in the planning board. I mean, the details of it. You know, I appreciate it all so much.
Our next citizen comment, I don't think we got anybody for that. Unfinished business, new business, Josh.
All right, 9A, I'm going to call up, excuse me, Tammy Heidi now. She's married. She's not Holland anymore. For both the next items, 9A being the amended Hemp Hill Grant Project Ordinance and Budget Amendment.
I almost missed it. I had to go to the bathroom.
Just in time.
Wait around all night. So this grant project ordinance is, it's accepting a donation that we had received previously in budgeting for this funds that we had received. And then the general fund had initially transferred $100,000. So we are returning that money back to the general fund because it's not needed to meet the requirements of that grant that we had received. So we've moved the $100,000 back, and then you'll also see a budget amendment where we move $40,000 of that when we get to the Helene project, because we moved $40,000 that was moved back into the general fund to the Helene project to help with the dog park repairs. But on the one that you're approving or looking at right now, it's just to move that $100,000 back to the general fund.
Do I hear a motion to amend the Hemp Hill Grant Project?
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously.
All right, Tammy, 9B.
So 9B is the Helene project. And like I spoke of, the main changes in this is we are accepting that $40,000 from the general fund to help with the dog park repairs, and then reallocation of funding between expense lines to cover funding for expenses.
I know those dog park repairs were a small project, right? Can you give us an update on how that $40,000 will be spent?
It's not spent yet, we can't quite do anything until Army Corps finishes up their work back there, the debris that they removed from the floodplain. So we're still waiting for that new equipment to get out, but that $40,000 will cover shade structure, trash cans, the fence and gate, things like that. But, there'll be additional work back there, but is not funded with that $40,000.
And that will be reimbursed by FEMA?
Yes.
We also got a working with an Eagle Scout on a project in there too.
Oh, great.
Can you give a quick rundown on the Hilltop? Have we gotten bids in on that?
Well, not bids, but 2 responses to the engineering services.
And so when will that, give me a timeline on that.
I don't have a timeline right now.
So we don't have any, so we don't know when they would go out to bid?
Not to bid, no.
Well, so we've got 2 engineers, so when will they be done with their work?
It'll be later this summer, early fall probably.
So we're not putting on any kind of timeline on them?
Well, there's too many other moving pieces to have a timeline that I'm confident even sharing at this point.
I mean, we wouldn't be doing anything, they're doing it, and then bringing it back to us to tell us what we need to do. Why would it take that long?
Because of all of the requirements that it has to go through to purchase the property, which takes months. We have engineering requirements that have to be reviewed through FEMA.
So basically, we can just tell these folks that they may get a road fixed up there by Christmas.
This is only stabilization.
Also, on expenditures, I just see we got contract services there. Is a lot of that IEM and Balfour? Okay. And have we paid them anything, or is that just going straight to FEMA and then they know that they're not gonna get paid for a year?
No, we've had to pay for everything. We have
We've
to pay
paid for everything up
everything
front.
up front.
We have created a Cat Z project to start getting reimbursed though.
And what kind of a time frame will that be?
There are no time frames. We were waiting for FEMA to approve things.
So at this point, we've gone ahead and spent 2.4 million.
We've not spent all of it, no.
How much have we spent on the IEM?
In the finance packet that I gave you on Thursday, all of that was in that. There was the FEMA breakdown, and I showed budgeted and actuals.
Okay, breakdown of Balfour and Fee and IEM.
Well, it told you how much was spent out of each expense line.
Okay, but it didn't specify which company.
No.
Pretty sure Balfour was paid for already.
Balfour was an expedited project.
Yeah.
And it was about 1.2.
And that was part of the 800,000 we got from FEMA, and then the other part, they will pay, as soon as they get that part approved.
Okay, anybody got any questions about this? Not, I hear a motion.
I would move to accept the amended grant project ordinance and budget amendments as presented.
Any discussion? Not, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And it's your lucky night tonight because I'm gonna ask you to table 9C because the attorney and I need to, well, staff needs to do a little more research and I think give some more information to Attorney Justice and we'll be able to make some better decisions on it, I think.
I think it's a wise decision because in reading through this, I didn't see anything in here about the fact that we would not be only billing visitors, and there's no definition of visitors, so.
Yep. It'll be back
Good,
next month, hopefully.
all right.
Communication from you, sir?
No.
Only thing I'll say is we are closed for Memorial Day on May the 26th. Guess I could say that, that's on a Monday. I guess I could say that Thursday, but we'll be doing our special call meeting Thursday this week for the budget presentation and to talk about the golf course.
8:30,
8:30.
okay.
That's it for me.
I don't have anything. Anybody on the board?
I just wanted to remind everybody that this is Mental Health Month, Mental Health Awareness Month, and make them aware that the Black Mountain Counseling Center is doing a lot of good work over there, and it continues to be available for Old Fort and Black Mountain and Swananoa residents, and a lot of I held up this flyer just because there's a bunch of businesses that have been supportive of their efforts this month.
Okay. Nothing else then? Meeting adjourned.